we'll have this discussion.
Discussion? What discussion?
This is a discussion.
Combustion. Coming to you from Denver, Colorado. This is Discussion Combustion Podcast with your hosts, Kevin Batstone and Arthur Raw.
The viewers see it tomorrow, and he gets the live action.
Yeah. It's always nice being a guest. It's fun having somebody in here. Well, technically, you're the guest. It's always fun having a guest for the guest.
A guest with the guest?
A guest with the guest.
Guest with the guest.
Yeah, it's always a good time, man. So, Minnesota guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Here,
Sure
pull
did.
that in just a bit.
Yeah, how's that?
Oh yeah, it's much better. Yes, I like that.
Buttery?
Yes.
Good.
Silky smooth. I love it. Well, let's raise our drinks, whatever we got going on.
Absolutely.
Thanks for making the trip down here, brother man.
Cheers.
Welcome to Discussion Combustion
Cheers.
Podcast, episode 233.
Cheers, Kev.
Hey, cheers, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Celsius. Should be a good time. I mean, you're a Minnesota guy, so you're used to this weather. I mean, it's kind of shitty here right now.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
I got off the plane. I was like,
It's not bad.
I'm home.
What would you consider bad exactly?
Yeah, when does it
as far
become
as
bad?
weather-wise?
Ooh, so I'm from northern Minnesota originally, about 3 hours north of Minneapolis, St. Paul. So I'm about an hour and a half from the Canadian border. And so oftentimes we have the state record for how cold it's been in Minnesota, and it's like negative 69 degrees, which is the all-time low ever. And it's owned by Tower, Minnesota, even though the people in Embarrass, which is a small little town, would argue it's there. But yeah, that's cold.
Negative 69.
That's
Yeah.
really cold.
Ambient air temp. That's not even wind chill.
No.
Yeah, it's really cold.
And the funny thing is when I was going to school as a kid, there would be these weeks of negative 30, negative 40, and we'd be like going to school. I don't think that happens anymore. So
Yeah.
made us a little bit tougher back in the day.
Yeah, and I feel like, I'm going to sound old here. I'm in my mid-30s. I grew up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So it gets cold there.
Oh, yeah?
We would see negative 20, negative 25, but it's like they wouldn't cancel school until...
Like cause the buses couldn't start or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Buses couldn't start or they couldn't drive anymore.
Yeah.
Like if they could drive, we're going to school.
Right.
Now it's like here in Denver, and maybe this is everywhere, I don't know. Things have changed a little bit, but like they'll hear a weather report the night before and like, yep, we're shutting it down.
Yeah.
Don't even bother.
That happens a lot. I have a bunch of friends in Nashville, Minnesotans that relocated and are doing music down there.
Yeah.
And they always talk about that. They're like, oh, we're going to get a light dusting and everything's going to shut down. And I get it because they don't have the infrastructure for it, right? They don't have the plows. They don't have the salt. They don't have the things to stop the ice from forming. So, like, I get it. And so I think Minnesotans, we like to, like, pat ourselves on the back. But it's like, we're just more prepared for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you have more experience doing it, obviously you're going to be better at it.
Right.
And Coloradans have this whole stigma of like, people in Colorado don't know how to drive. Well, guess what? Most people in Colorado are not from Colorado.
Sure.
Right? So it's like, it's because they don't know how to drive in the snow. They're not acclimated to
They're all
this type of weather.
transplants, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Is it pretty transient here?
I would say it's like a
in
melting
Denver?
pot here. I came here
Yeah.
in 07 from New England, so I at least came from a snow background knowing how to handle that kind of weather. But I feel like, I don't know, I see a lot of Californians, a lot of Texans, a lot of people from the South.
Yeah, a lot of Texans, yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I just feel like Denver, it's really changed a lot since I've been here, which 16 years now. I mean, I love the city for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. I like Texas.
You do.
When it gets cold, he gets fussy.
I get grumpy
He gets
when
a
it's
little
cold.
fussy, yeah.
Yeah. And so what's cold to you?
So I would say anything under 20 degrees is like when I'm starting to be like, damn it.
So today you were like, this
Like,
isn't nice.
It's not
but,
bad. But
Yeah.
like I was just in Phoenix, 3 days ago.
Right.
And it was 93 there.
Yeah.
No jacket needed.
That's a contrast.
And then I came back into this. But it's not bad, though.
See, 93 for me.
Is that too hot?
Yeah, that's like balmy. That's like too balmy for me.
Like, and granted, you're in
But
Phoenix,
Phoenix,
so it's
yeah.
dry.
Yeah.
But like, man, this is a while ago when Hurricane Katrina hit down south in New Orleans and all that. I did Habitat for Humanity, so I went down and rebuilt houses.
Wow.
And we took a whole bus of people from northern Minnesota down.
Yeah.
24-hour trip. We got there, and I remember getting off the bus and just walking through this. It was so
Yeah.
humid.
Yeah.
It was literally like you get off the air conditioning bus and you had to like step through it.
Yeah.
And I was wearing like a light blue shirt, and it took about 4 minutes before that thing was dark blue.
Oh, I bet.
Just sweating profusely.
Yeah.
But Yeah, that's a whole different beast, right? 90 plus 100% humidity.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, the worst I experienced, and I just got done, telling I want to move to Texas, but I was there at the end of September for the NASCAR race there, and it was 100 degrees, 103 ambient with 100% humidity. It was the hottest race in NASCAR history, and I almost face planted.
Yeah.
It was so hot.
Yeah.
But like you said, the humidity it adds. But even up in Minnesota, like the summer times up there.
Oh yeah.
Right, you feel it a little bit.
Yeah, we hit 100 probably multiple times up there, and the humidity definitely is up there. But we also have 10,000 lakes, so we spend a lot of time when it's that hot. You're on the water for sure, and if you're not on the water, you're trying to find a way to get to the water. You're finding who's got a boat, where are we going, that kind of thing.
Yep, ice down the cooler. Let's get the fishing boat.
Yeah,
let's go. I want to get up there, man, because I've heard the fishing up there is phenomenal.
It's amazing, especially like where I'm from, Lake Vermilion, which shout out to Lake Vermilion, amazing lake. One of the best muskie fishing. I don't know if you're familiar with that
muskie
type
fishing?
of fish.
Yep.
It's basically like a freshwater shark. The things are huge. State record's like 59 inches.
Really?
I mean,
it's a beast.
And they're huge.
Massive.
And so
musky fish.
Muskie, yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard about that.
For your viewers out there, if you haven't seen a muskie, just Google it now. They can they'll take your calf off. I mean,
really?
They're
they got teeth. They got teeth like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like a northern pike on steroids. They're
okay.
huge. So
what's the biggest one you yanked out?
I've yet to catch one my whole life. They say it takes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of casts to even maybe get a bite. I've had some big northern pike. But, muskies are just a different breed. They'll come up, eat ducks, and, duck will be like swimming. Those things will see ya.
Take it and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
I didn't know that.
Huh?
I didn't know that. So they'll take a mallard down whole.
Well, usually they go after the babies.
Those
are the snacks, but
that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
But they're big, man. I can't wait for you to Google it later. It's gonna really.
I'm gonna be doing some research there, for sure. Now
I hope you guys come up to Minnesota and let me know when you're there,
man.
And preferably not from now until about May. Yeah, you'll regret it otherwise.
That's the thing about the northern winters, because like we're kind of a similar latitude to where I grew up. Like the winters there are pretty consistent. Like the temperatures kind of dip down. Right, you have your winter, and then you kind of come gradually back out of it. At least where I grew up.
Sure.
Here in Colorado, man, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
It's
bipolar. The weather.
You're the native. Why don't you fill us in?
The weather during the winter is bipolar in Colorado.
Sure.
You can get, what's considered a blizzard, and I think a blizzard is just like the wind speed and snow. Mm-hmm. So like just because you have a blizzard doesn't mean that you're gonna get feet of snow.
Right.
It's just blowing at a certain. So. But you'll get a blizzard, and then the next day it'll be 70 and sunny, and you can like go out in a t-shirt, and it's like melting all the snow away. So that's one thing that's great about Colorado that I feel spoiled with is we're actually one of the sunnier states in the lower 48, right?
Sure.
And so, you go to like the Northeast or even up like in Ohio and up there, and even out where you're from, it gets really gray.
Yeah.
All winter.
Yep.
And it's not like that in Colorado. You get a lot of blue sky. I love it, man.
Is it because of the altitude too? Like, I mean, I know we're Denver's not as high as if you go towards the mountains or whatever. But
we're
I mean,
5280.
it's still a lot higher than Minneapolis.
I think there's a lot of things.
I mean, the
play
continental divide has to play some sort of role and all this, and like technically, it's like a desert up here.
It's considered a high desert.
High desert,
especially when you get like Pueblo and some of those areas. That kind of really speaks more to.
Is that kind of like Flagstaff then? Because Flagstaff is really elevated too. Now we're getting into geography here. This is great.
I think Flagstaff is still. I like that place. I could see myself hanging out in Flagstaff.
I don't know what the exact elevation of Flagstaff is, but I know it's pretty high.
Yeah.
I think it's either Denver or higher.
I've played there, and I know that a lot of astrologers will go there. Astrologists will go there, and they love looking at the stars because it's so crystal clear and they're so elevated. And so I was thinking high desert. I'm like, oh, Flagstaff's probably one of those too then.
Yeah, coming out of the valley. Yeah.
Because we, a little story, we flew down to Phoenix to buy a car for Kevin from his brother, a Ford Focus. It was this red thing that was loud as fuck.
This was back in 2011.
Like that thing was so.
Oh yeah, it was a
loud.
race rock. It had like it had aftermarket clutch in it. It was like a little race car. We're driving this thing back.
Yeah. So we go down to Phoenix to drive this shit back, man.
This was 12 years ago.
And we're bringing it back. And once we entered into Flagstaff, it was the ecosystem changed so quickly. And it was just one of those things that was kind of cool. You're like, oh, this is Flagstaff. Like we just drove out of this desert. Now we're in this little town that seems like home to me, which it's like a mini Colorado.
It's very homey.
Yeah.
It's a cool town for sure.
Yeah.
I haven't spent it. I've only driven through it, so I don't know like what the bars are like or what people like to do there.
Yeah, I was there briefly. I played there and had a great time at a local pub. A bunch of people were there, super supportive. But, you're talking about that Ford Focus and how loud it was. And it makes me think of, I used to drive a 2008 Prius. And I did up until a certain point, and then somebody ripped the catalytic converter off of it. And the thing sounded like a beast.
Really? The Prius?
Oh, yeah. So they took the catalytic converter off, which just puts the engine straight out, right? And it's like...
just dumping out.
Oh, man. I was going to a gig, and I was, the hybrid engine will kick on. That's when it's really loud.
Yeah.
Then it'll go silent
Uh-huh.
when the hybrid kicks in. So I'm fading into this red light, and there's this huge truck next to me with huge exhaust, so loud. And I pull in silently, and I'm sitting there, and it goes green, and I go to accelerate, and the engine kicks on. the girl in the seat in the truck looked over at me, and I just looked at her like,
What you know about this Prius?
what you know about a Prius, girl?
I can't say I've ever heard a Prius make that kind of noise.
You're like, I bet you didn't know it made that kind of noise.
No one knew. In fact, when I turned it on, once they had ripped that thing off, I just about pooped my pants. So it startled me. Like,
That's funny.
So was it stolen or like, because everyone's been stealing these things for, selling it for money.
yeah, I mean, so that particular model, there was so much precious metals used in it, and for whatever reason, I don't know the science, but I know that they were like $1,200, $1,300 a pop. So people would look for them, jump underneath them, just cut them off, go. And I mean, it was happening a lot, so much so that like Toyota was like making these guards for them, so it was like harder to get access to. So I don't know. I was pretty bummed because, like, you pay off a car. I've taken that thing all around the country and so many experiences with it, and then they do that, and then it's like, ugh. So I didn't get a new one put on because that's too expensive for a 2008. I just straight piped it.
Yeah.
My buddy, and so maybe not as efficient as it once was, but hey, it was a temporary fix. And
so you're still driving this thing?
No, I just got rid of it. Rest in peace.
Did you have a name for this mighty ship?
Penelope.
Penelope.
Oh, that's a good name.
Prius.
Yeah, Penelope the Prius. And,
I like it.
She was loyal, 9 years.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of miles.
R.I.P. Penelope.
Yeah.
That thing went everywhere all over the country, huh? Cheers to Penelope. I like it. I mean, naming some possessions is like a part of the fun, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So like everything in the studio basically has a name, including the couches, including
Yes.
the computer,
Oh, really?
including
Yes,
the
a lot of the things
refrigerators.
do, yes.
It's kind of like we have fun with it,
I love
So the name of the studio is Mila. We call her Mila.
Yeah. Every studio name has changed, because it's new space,
We had
new
Grace,
energy.
we had Bruce.
Yep.
And now
Bruce
Mila.
was the only male.
Yeah.
Only male name studio. It just felt like a dude in there. I don't know
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. And of course, we started in Jamie's basement, so that was the first studio. So I guess we just call that Jamie's basement.
Yeah.
Was the name of the first studio. But yeah, so this one is Felicia,
Yeah.
and that's Fiona that you're sitting on.
Aw.
Yeah.
Fiona's
Fiona's
very
comfortable.
welcoming to the guests.
She's
is.
nice. She treats the guests
She is
well,
good.
and then the laptop is Gloria.
Yeah, Gloria. This thing, man, I don't know what's up with this computer. I think it's because
beast.
we baby it so much. We talk to it and like treat it well, just like my
Like
plant,
a plant,
my plants at home. Yeah, exactly. She fucking nailed it.
That's awesome.
And we've had people that use the same like board that we have over here and stuff. And we've even plugged in this board on computers that are more robust than Gloria is. And they don't process the same, dude. There's something about it, man.
Well, and I was literally just talking with a friend about this because I had somebody come to pick up the car, and I was like kind of sad as it was leaving. I was like, oh man, I thought about how often it got me to gigs safely. You know, all the people who rode in that car, all the experiences, the love gained, love lost, all the triumphs, defeats, everything in between. And I got, it's interesting how you get emotionally attached to these inanimate objects, but like something like a vehicle where it is so personal. You're spending so much time in it. I was just like, man, and I know there's songs written about that kind of stuff, but it just like, as I watched it go away on the tow truck, I was a little sad, you know. I was like a little verklempt, and you know, I had bought a new vehicle. Her name is Pearl. Yeah, it's Pearl White, so I just went with, with
I like
Pearl.
Pearl.
But, and it's a Toyota RAV4, like newer one. It's really beautiful car.
I like the RAV4s.
They're really nice, but it's just I love that connection, man, and machine. And you probably know a lot about that with the NASCAR stuff and like how those people feel when they're racing and the intimacy that brings, especially at that level, let alone the time and commitment it probably takes for those professionals and what they do. So.
Absolutely. Well, you think of like, you ever seen the movie Gone in 60 Seconds?
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies of all time, right? So Nick Cage is making this connection with Eleanor, one of my favorite cars of all time.
Talking to it.
He's like, be good to me, girl. You know,
Right.
the Shelby GT500 Mustang, epic.
What a car.
You know, I mean, it's epic car, right? That's when the Mustang was the Mustang. But like, yeah, to your point, he's like, come on, be good to me. You know, he's talking to her. You know, that's how you got to treat a vehicle or an inanimate object that means something to you or adds value to you, right? I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
You know, I think it works, and if perception's reality, then in my perception of reality, it fucking works. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's how it is.
The plants are growing.
Yeah.
And these are functioning.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep talking to it.
Exactly. I'm like, you're so good to us. Don't you ever leave me.
Yes, absolutely. Now, what's the name of the guitar? Did you name it?
So I, believe it or not, I haven't named this guitar. I do have one that has a name. It's called the Palomino. It's this.
Well, you like these peas.
Well, it's not just because my name starts with a B. But the idea is the other one. It's this beautiful wood. It's called myrtle wood, and it was handcrafted by the. So I play Breedlove guitars, and Kim Breedlove is the head luthier, and he had handcrafted this particular one. And there was a blemish on it, and so we got like a discount on it. But it's this incredible indigenous wood.
Is it from like
up
Myrtle
in
Beach?
Oregon. Up in Oregon,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it has this amazing, crisp, bright, and I just don't bring that anywhere. Because
it's
it's
too
like that's for
precious.
like studio work. That's sitting in a case with a humidifier, and this has been my workhorse. So this one is probably 12 to 1,300 gigs easy.
Wow.
And from -40 to 106 degrees. Like, you know, it's been all over the country. It's been all over it's been overseas. It's I love that guitar, and I don't have a name for it. So maybe we name it right here.
Wow. There's
live action?
No pressure, but maybe we stew on it a little bit and we come up with a name.
Hey, if it comes to, because no one can christen this thing other than you.
That's true. That's
you
true.
know, so like if something comes to mind while we're doing this, I'm all for it. But what's said on the pod, you got to follow through on that.
Yeah.
You know, because people will listen to this, they're gonna listen to this, and then
They're gonna see it at a gig.
one day somebody's be like, hey. I love whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Is that, or they're gonna be like, hey, is that blank? Whatever the name is, and you're like, yes, most certainly is.
Yes, it is. Well, one thing you should know about me, it's commit or die.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, like if you're gonna do it, you don't half-ass it, you whole-ass it. Hashtag
full send.
Yeah, Ron Swanson. I don't know if you're.
Yes.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Yeah, you know, I don't like the half-ass things. Usually, it's like.
Go all the way.
Commit or die. Like, I don't know. If you're going to do something, do it. If you're going to
with
dabble and pretend that you're wanting more, want more and do it, you know? So
Take action, own it, full send. It's all the shit we always say. We had a nice guest a couple weeks ago. I think Jade I Am, another musician.
Yeah.
And she said if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no.
yeah.
You know, like why?
Especially as you get older, right?
Yeah.
Like you realize like time is super precious and where you're putting your time and your energy, who you're hanging out with. I mean, all that stuff there's energy around it. And so what you're willing to do, man, it is important.
It is.
Oh.
It is. And I mean, I don't have kids or anything, so I guess I have more time than some.
Sure.
But it's like, man.
But do you? I mean,
don't know. I'm
you
pretty
stay busy as well.
I'm
you
pretty
know?
busy. I'm pretty busy.
Yeah,
but like, you know, you make time for the people that are important, to you or things that you want to go support, whatever. You know, like if you were playing a gig, we would make time to go see it.
Right.
You know, things like that.
Yeah.
Right. You allocate time for those things, and not everyone, I guess, is as fortunate to do that. But you know, I think at the same time, some people just like Complacent Boulevard. They want to be on that Complacent Street. They don't want to take that left on Full Send Highway.
Yeah. And you know, people make choices, and owning choices is important to me too. Like
Agreed.
That's a full send in my opinion. Like if you have done something and that is your choice and you are owning it and doing it, you know, you might not be doing the thing that you wanted to full send, if that makes sense, right? Like, but as long as you're fully invested, say you have kids and maybe it wasn't part of the plan, but you're there, you're a father, you're stepping up for your kids, you're doing the right things. Like I think that's really important stuff. But you know, that's maybe a personal motto. But, you know, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing about drive and goals and being motivated is everybody likes to look at that.
Yeah.
Everyone is always like, oh, that looks so nice. Oh, if only my life could be, I would love if I could do blank. You know, and they're always sitting there looking out the window at it. And and we allude to this all the time, is people want a quick fix, so they quit after like a week or two of doing something. I mean, since we've been podcasting like 5 years ago when we started, how many podcasts have come and gone and like disappeared because they didn't actually fully commit?
Right.
You know, so that's just one example. So you have to fully commit, like you're saying, but then also to do the things that you want to do, there's this part where you have to do things that you don't like to do in order to maintain what you do like to do.
Well, and you're probably going to suck at something when you first start, which I think is usually the hardest thing for me. Is I'm not sure if you're familiar with something called the Enneagram, but I'm a 3, which means I'm an achiever. I like to do well at things. Okay. I want to make it work.
The Enneagram?
Enneagram. So it's a
What is
numbered system that's basically like it's a kind of a personality type assessment on how you make sense of the world. Kind of generally, I'm not super into those because I'm like, oh, they're trying to put everybody in boxes. But the weird thing is, the more that you kind of dive into it, there's a lot of, at least for me, it made a lot of sense. And for me, it's like, I don't want to be bad at something. And I think most people feel that way. Like, they don't want to suck at something. And so you have to get over that fear of inherently being super shitty at something and pushing through that. And then effectively, you're going to get better.
Yeah.
If you're passionate about it and you care about it, right? And so no different with music, no different than with podcasting, no different if you're selling turtle wax. No matter what it is, you want to be putting in the effort and you want to be good at it. But it takes time, too.
You have to mess up. Like,
I agree with that.
You have to mess up.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with messing up, man. Like, that's just... Like, if you're going to sit here and be like, look, this is my passion, this is what I want to live for, and then you go for something and you stumble a little bit and scrape your knee, like you're falling a little bit, and like, you're like, oh, that was a good run, then you're going to be sitting here disappointed in the back of your mind for the rest of your life, like, what if I just pushed a little bit harder? Yeah. What if I just did it? What if I just did that? And that's one place where I don't like to be, and I think most people don't enjoy that mental place. But it was like a year and a half or so ago where I started to commit to things within 3 to 5 seconds of thinking about that thing. So it's like, all right, do 20 push-ups, or all right, like call this girl, go approach this girl at the bar and try to get her number. Like, instead of talking myself out of this stuff, like, I would just do it immediately.
You were like Jim Carrey in Yes Man.
Yeah, it's a
great movie.
Let's do it.
It is a great movie.
Yes,
and,
I will.
And it changed my life. Like, not listening to my complacent mindset and immediately just doing with what my intuition was telling me to do. Yeah. And I feel like people need to do that. They need to take it on the chin, fail a little bit, and like stay in it and get tough, because if it's worth it, it's not going to come easy. Correct. And like, so there's all these cliches that are true as fuck.
I mean, fear, right? What stops most people? It's like fear of what will they think of me, fear of complacency, or that complacency mindset of like, I'm comfortable, fear of looking like an idiot, all that stuff.
Well, people do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure, generally speaking. Right? I mean, and back to your point, repetition's the mother of skill, right? The more times you do things, the better you're going to get at, whether that's playing guitar, whether that's you investing in a business or starting a podcast, whatever it is. And I think it's just things are different now. I feel like with the social media influence that we see, and everybody just constantly having instant gratification, or at least seeking that. It's like it didn't happen in a month. Oh, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
It didn't happen in a year. I'm giving up.
Yeah.
It's like, man, how do you generally speaking, because I think everyone in this room agrees, like, you got to keep working hard and all that. We're all in agreement on that. How do we break those barriers for we can't control what people do, but it's like you got to keep moving, man.
Yeah.
You got to keep stay dialed in.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, would you say for both of you, where would you say personally in that same mindset is your shortcoming? Like, because like I think about my own, and sometimes like for me it's like new tech, like it's all the new social media, having to be on everything, and then realizing like, wow, I'm spread so thin already because I'm on everything I thought I was, and then the next thing comes out, like for example TikTok, and as a musician it is the TikTok era. Like record labels won't even sniff you unless you've had like a TikTok viral hit, and then they don't even care to invest in you because they're just gonna find another viral hit in the next week. And so it's like this really weird kind of time to be a musician.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess I didn't think of it that way from the music perspective. I mean, because Art, when you were kind of doing with your Warner Brothers thing, there was a different time. We didn't have the TikToks and the things of that. So that's interesting. That's kind of where things have transitioned to, that the social media presence is so important for success anymore. I don't know if I really like that, but it's like, I guess you got to kind of play the game a little bit. We obviously have a social media presence. We don't do TikTok, though.
No.
Discussion Combustion is not on TikTok.
We've talked about doing it, but we're patriots of this country, even though, look, like, America's not a perfect place either, but...
I'm glad you said it that way. I mean,
that's funny. I didn't even think of that, but yeah, touche.
But it's. I mean, everybody. Look.
I wanted to use it too. Like I was like, we should get on it.
Yeah, he was trying to convince me.
We need to get on it. And look, here, if we don't agree, then we just don't do it. Like, it's a 50-50. But to answer your question, like, not business-wise, but as far as my shortcomings, I would say is overthinking what is right, and hence like why I've tried to make an effort toward doing things almost immediately, but I still struggle with that. And like I have a lot of fun. I'm so fortunate, but I've came over opiate addictions and lost weight and all these other things that took a lot of time while I'm by myself to work on. And like, so even though I'm happy now, I'm so fortunate. Like I was in a dark place for a long time. Like cars repoed, fucking credit sucked. Like, everything was fucked up. Shitty relationships. And where I'm at now, I do feel successful and happy. And I'm like, I know my purpose. So it's like, where are the shortcomings? Well, it's like overthinking, like, what am I doing with my time? Or what does this meetup mean? Or, what is the value here? And, like, overthinking it instead of just going in and experiencing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question. It's kind of hard to answer, I guess.
And I think oftentimes when I'm thinking about like the things that you're saying, which congratulations to, I mean, those are no small feats to be.
Everyone has to fight their own demons, man.
Yeah.
And like, if you're out there fighting, no one's going to do it for you, and it fucking sucks. So keep it up.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
And so, but the idea, even from a philosophical standpoint of like right and wrong, these terms that have this duality of yes, no, light, dark, right, wrong. There's so many times where we as people, I've said this a lot lately because I've been reading a lot about like the Stoics and about Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and like this idea of this duality. I think complexity, or rather simplicity, is almost like the enemy sometimes. And whether we're talking music, whether we're talking politics, whether we're talking anything, like we all love to just kind of like hone in on something and point to one thing. But what I've realized in this world is that there's so much gray. It isn't black and white. Mm-hmm. And if we're willing to be, not to quote Ted Lasso, but to be curious, right? Instead of judgmental. I mean, it's it's like this empowering, powerful statement to oneself to grow. Because if you're set in your ways, that's like a lot of people are, and that's okay to have like conviction for things, right? But like to have growth mindset is this whole other idea of like asking simple questions like, what don't I know about this situation? Am I wrong? Just the humility. And I think when people walk into conversation with that growth mindset and with like that little bit of humility, man, those are the people that I'm drawn to, because it's like they're curious. They want to know more. They aren't necessarily fixed. And you can, you know, I'm 33, and I don't know how much wisdom that has, you know, afforded me, but I continue to want to travel, to meet new people, to hear new stories, to explore, because I think the moment I think I have it all figured out is the moment that we just slowly... You
cap yourself right there.
Yeah, you just slowly start to become this fixture of the world that you don't want. Or at least for me, like I want to continue to grow.
Yeah, keep finding your ceiling and reaching for it.
Yeah.
You know, like RIP to all the people who capped in high school and are still talking about that bullshit. You know,
what was as bringing their, like, the guys like, I was state champ in you know, my football league or whatever. I mean, those are exciting things.
It's exciting, but dude, you can't just end there, man. Like, you got to keep.
Right. What's next?
And that's almost a complacent mindset. Like, if you're still looking at your past, your ego is still attached to your past, and you can't let go of it, and life is not fulfilling now because you feel like you were doing it back then and not doing it now, then, like you say, like a simple question, what can I be doing differently to make my life more fulfilling?
Well, and
you know,
I almost
like
asked the question with those folks of like, you know, what were they missing to take the next step? Was there, you know what I mean? Like, when they graduated from high school, say they were the star football player, so they keep reminiscing about, I got 6 touchdowns back in, you know, and whatever. You hear it all the time about, like, down south, and you see it on those shows, like, and it's like, those are all, I think they're great. And I think they're great memories,
right?
It's
fun, it's fun to reminisce. Like,
and like, the nostalgia is, I think that can be a powerful tool, but it's like, you can't get stuck there.
Yeah.
And I think so often people don't have the resources to pull themselves out of their past because it was such a joyous moment. And so do I begrudge or belittle them because of that? No, I mean, like, I think it's because in some ways they think that was the pinnacle for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I think that those people, even as stuck as they are in the past, have so much to offer, you know, if they're just willing to explore it. But it's that fixed mindset of like, this is who I am, this is what I was.
That willingness to explore, though, is the important piece, because you're willing to look at your own life as an observer of your life and actually be like, wow, I'm really effing up at this, or I'm really passionate about blank, but I haven't given that any time in the last 3 months. I haven't been fulfilling my passion at all. No wonder why I'm depressed. But sometimes it's hard to even get to that acknowledgement kind of mindset where you're actually looking at yourself in a neutral mentality to where you can actually even dissect that.
Right.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I mean, it goes back to like we've been talking about a little bit with the complacent mindset, and well, that's the good enough mindset, right? A lot of us have been conditioned to do that. You know, I really, as I've said this before, but I can only speak for kind of the American culture. But it's like, okay, you graduate, you go to college, you get your degree, you find your career, you're in student loan debt, you find somebody, you get married, you have kids, you live in a cul-de-sac. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? That's not the American dream for everybody, I don't feel like.
No,
I don't think
not
it has
at
to
all.
be that specific A to B blueprint. It looks different for everyone. Maybe you want to chase music, maybe you want to be a podcaster, maybe you want to be a race car driver. You know, and I think that, again, bringing social media back into it, people also then feel, oh, well, you know, this person's younger than me and they already have a house and a family and this and that, and then they're basing where they're at off what somebody else is doing, rather than it's like, man, you're in the driver's seat here, you can go own it at any moment.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard the Baz Luhrmann USC graduation speech? I mean, it was like on the Now CD. It's a little corny, but it
sounds familiar.
He has that line where he's like, you know, the race is with yourself, essentially. Like, it's a little corny, but it's actually really good. There's a lot of it's called Wear Sunscreen. He's like, wear sunscreen. If I could offer you one tip for the future, which granted, I don't know if that's aged well, because they've said like sunscreen has a lot of carcinogens and terrible things. It's like supposed to be stopping it now. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I think at least I can just speak for me. When I think about music and how I've loved it forever. I mean, my mom growing up, she toured all over the country, did USO tours, and like I grew up in a home that nurtured that you know, and I think about those kids that maybe don't have that, that have to look elsewhere for what I would call like people living in their music. Yeah. Rather than like the static. And I think there's so many people that are stuck in the static, and that's stuff that we can control and stuff that we have no control over, right? But like when you find your music, that thing that you love, the thing that you're passionate about, the thing that you're willing to suck at to grow and like, I mean, that's the most important essence I think that we can give to young people, let alone adults, those people living in the nostalgia of what once was. And so, like, how do we direct that energy and make people feel like, one, they're capable, right? Yeah. Like they have the resources to do it and that they're good enough. And so often I think it's just that people feel like, I'm not good enough, or it's some sort of self-deprecating moment. You know what I mean?
For me on my journey, because this podcast, when we started, I was still abusing opiates for sure. And you can tell on some of the episodes that I was actually on, that I was high on that shit. And so for me, it's being really open and honest about the struggle, because it sucked. Yeah. And I'm not going to gloss over that like, oh, I'm better, life is great. Right. No, like I'm still diligent and like fast and am hungry and like self-induced suffering in order to become better. And like I feel like for me, normalizing that part of it, like it's going to suck. You're going to have to buckle in and fight like no one can for you. And like that kind of like fight mentality, I know can be kind of abrasive. Like I've said that to some people and they're like, well, why do you have to fight? Why do you have to fight yourself? And I'm like, I don't know. That's what worked for me. Yeah. But whatever works for anybody, you know, I feel like just normalizing it and saying like, yeah, it's going to suck. You're going to struggle.
You have to want to help yourself.
You're going to slip up sometimes. Like that was some of the best advice one of my friends gave me. He's like, look, I know you did a month off and then you did it. You're not back on square one. You still did that month. You've still made progress. And I feel like once I understood that, like I'm making progress. Even if you mess up and you still continue, then you're making progress, regardless if it's overcoming addiction, losing weight, learning how to play the guitar, whatever it is. It's going to be a struggle. Yeah. And like here's the other thing, and I'll pass the mic. But like if you're not accomplishing your goals and you're being complacent and you're depressed, that's struggling too. If you're being successful, you're staying productive, you're working hard, you're filling in your empty time, you are being diligent, and it can be a struggle to stay persistent. So either way, we're going to struggle. It's just like, which one would you prefer? Yeah. You know, it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, totally. What do you think, Kevin?
I mean, I agree. Look, Art and I are always kind of spitballing back and forth on, you know, positive reinforcement and kind of, you know, taking the bull by the horn, so to speak, and making life adjustments. And I'm getting ready to do the same thing going into 2024. I know I've talked about this a lot over the past few episodes. I'm going to give up alcohol on June 7th, 2024, and that was a promise I made to myself many, many years ago.
Sure. May I ask particular reason? What was the catalyst for that?
You know, I think I knew in my late 20s, so alcoholism was huge in my family, you know, one of those deals. And just kind of like analyzing it from, you know, an overall view of, is this something I want to continue to do? Yeah. Right. So I challenged myself, okay, when I'm 35, and Art's seen me say this since I decided to do this. I can't remember how old I was when I decided.
I feel like it's been over 10 years you've been saying
I think it's been that long?
Yeah, something like that. Like you've been mentally preparing yourself for this for a long time.
For a long time. And so it's like, here it comes. Here comes the deadline.
Yeah.
And, you know, is it going to be one of those things where I'll never have a sip of alcohol again? I don't know. But I know it's just time. You know, it's time. I don't feel good anymore.
Sure.
Like the way I could. And so it's time to make those changes. People go, why don't you just do it now, Kev? I get it. But I kind of like setting a timeline on things. Yeah. We want to get X, Y, and Z done by this time. That's just kind of how I operate. So, you know, I guess going back to things, you can make changes at any moment, right? People want to lose weight. They want to quit alcohol. They want to pick up a new hobby and play guitar or whatever, right? Like we're not a manager of our lives. We're a creator of it. That's what I believe personally. We create opportunities to happen, right? No one's going to do it for you. You know, you might have people rooting for you, I believe. Yeah. And that's great. I feel very fortunate to have a tremendous group.
Yeah.
That I could pick up the phone and somebody's going to answer. Yeah. Right. Yeah. They'll be there. That's a great feeling. Not everybody has that. So that's kind of my approach to it, and that's what I look at. Really, just it's up to me. It's up to the individual, right? Yeah. It's nice to have people along the way, but man, if you can't get yourself in the driver's seat and drive that thing around, no one's going to do it for you.
Yeah. And there's a beautiful quote. I'm going to butcher it, but F. Scott Fitzgerald, familiar with the author, he wrote this thing a long time ago, and it's along the lines of, there's no rules to this. You can start over whenever you so choose. For some of you, it may be earlier or too late in my case to start over, but that isn't the case. And so essentially he talks about, like, talk to people you disagree with, do things that scare you, because there aren't any rules to this. And so, yeah, I think in many ways we are the master of our own, destiny, whatever you want to call it. We do hold some of the reins, right? Like we can take ownership and we can do all the things, right? But I've started to come to this realization that I think, as great as it sounds to be a lone wolf and be able to do it all on your own, I think that is a recipe for failure. And I think we as people, we just need each other. And I know that sounds super corny, but it's like we need people in our lives, people that love us, people that care about us, people that want to see us be our best selves. And I know that there's a plethora of what does that mean? What does best self look like in the eyes of somebody else? But at the end of the day, if you can wake up and, to your point, feel like you're doing good things, whether it's for yourself, for others, I found that's a thing for me that makes me feel really good, is once I get past the ego and I can put the focus on other people, which is what I ultimately think music does, is you're connecting with people and you're sharing experience, right? And that's the beauty. That's the essence, right? You're sharing a story, an emotion, something that brings us all to a point in our life, whether it's shared or it's something different, but we're finding that piece of ourself in it. That's magic.
It is.
And that's feeling connected. And that's what podcasts do, right? That's what art does. We come together, and it's the best thing. And to me, like, I love that so much.
Well, I agree.
So what's one thing, and sorry, Kev, but I have a question here.
Go ahead.
What's something that you've had to overcome recently that you had to consciously overcome? Like, you didn't just naturally come up with a solution, where you actually had to sit there and be like, okay, like, this is how I'm going to navigate this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I could go with a lot of different things here. I'm gonna go with professionally. I think I was such a yes guy. I mean, always trying to do everything. Always trying to. I was just spreading myself so thin. Whether it was, I do work with a nonprofit, and I go into schools and play music, and it's a wonderful organization called Youth Frontiers. And I was just, I was doing 100+ day-long retreats with students and educators alike all around the country, and then also doing 100 to 150 shows on my own.
Wow.
And then, I was just like burning myself out. And I think for me, one of the toughest things I had to learn in the last few years was just being able to say, like, no, like, I need some time to reset. I need some time for me, and not thinking I was selfish for doing it, not feeling guilty, because I really love making others feel good. I love bringing myself to whatever I can do to help a situation, like, and so often though that, when you're burning the candle at both ends, like, it eventually leaves you feeling just depleted.
Yeah.
And
like you're like ready to
myself.
sleep. You're like ready to sleep for like 3 days.
Oh yeah. And,
you're like,
and
oh my God.
there were times.
Turn this off.
Yeah, there were times where it's like I just wouldn't get out of bed because it's like I need this whole day.
Yeah.
And I just need to reset. That's probably something that I've tried to be a little bit more just for the longevity of my mental health, personal health, and for me to be my best for others too, and myself. It's like you need the rest. You need to be able to take care of yourself too. So that's something I probably had some trouble with.
I can relate to that. I mean, it's so easy to get burnt out, and that's. I mean, you've been doing, like you said, over 150 shows and doing, charity events and stuff like that. It's like when you have to always be somewhere, you always have to be that guy, so to speak. Like it starts to wear on you. You're like, man, I don't know if I'm feeling it today. It's like, I am going to just take this day. I tell them all the time, I'm like, nope, not doing it. I need tonight. We went hard this week.
I'll be hitting him up like, come chill. He's like, nah, man.
I need
the space, yeah.
Because I know if I don't, like, I'm not going to be where I need to be. And so I think it's just important to recognize that, and know, hey, man, I need to get rest this time. Maybe not take, because we were the same way and probably still are. We take almost every opportunity that comes our way.
Yeah. We'll look at it. We'll look at every opportunity. Won't necessarily take it. But yeah.
Scarcity mindset. Too,
yeah.
Right? Like as an artist, that's something I grew up with because moving from a small town and then going to Minneapolis, it's like much bigger than where I grew up. It's like I would play I wanted to play every show because I wanted everyone to hear me.
Who can I get in front of tonight?
Who's going to be there? Who's going to listen? And
you never know. It could just be that one person in the crowd.
Yeah, but I mean, I have those stories. Like, I mean, from playing in a no-name bar in the middle of nowhere, meeting somebody, and then going and playing on a stage with Grammy award-winning musicians because of it. It's like that doesn't happen if I don't go play that bar and I'm myself, right? Like that's
you build this momentum and energy, like. And to speak to what you're saying, yes, I do agree. You need to take a day off. I consider having one day a week where I do nothing productive. That's productive in my mind. But to the point here of you're building this momentum and things are happening, like it's a beast creating stuff. And John X is where I got this quote from was, you've created a beast and congratulations. It's always going to be hungry. And if you do anything in the entertainment industry, it's the same shit. But when you keep showing up every time that you show up, even when you don't want to be there or you're trying to talk yourself out of it, you do create this momentum. And sometimes that momentum starts pushing you, even if you don't want to.
Ball starts rolling.
Yeah, you're all like, oh shit, like this thing's moving. Like I got to keep up with my own momentum.
You got to ride the wave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and once the ball starts rolling, it's hard to stop that momentum. What did they say? The immovable object versus the. Oh gosh, come on, Preston.
What is that one?
It's the.
I kind of know where you're going.
Yeah.
Through the immovable object versus the.
Wow! Thanks, Bud Light. Yeah. Anyways, you know where I'm going. Everyone at home, you know where I'm going.
It'll come.
Yeah.
No, we're really gonna quit on this. We're not gonna come up with this. So
it'll pop up in my brain.
The immovable object versus the black hole. No, that can't be it. That can't.
No,
be
I think
it.
you just made it worse.
No, yeah, I think that.
The immovable object.
Gosh, we're gonna probably get
next
this
to the
1,000 times in the comments.
Oh yeah,
like,
just say it.
Like, you fucking guys killed
idiots.
me.
Google it.
They're gonna be like, I can't believe he started playing guitar before they actually fucking finished coming up with that
shit. Impenetrable what is it?
Movable object versus
the unstoppable force.
Something like that.
Let's just go. That sounded good.
Yeah, that seems.
The immovable object against the unstoppable force. Yeah.
Is that what we're going with?
I guess.
Yeah.
Is that a unanimous decision?
Yeah. We don't even need to flip a coin on it.
That's fair. That's fair. You actually bring up a good point there with the flipping the coin thing. So I've been making a lot of decisions off a coin flip.
Yeah.
Like football style.
So chance, you're leaving it up to.
Well, heads is always go.
Heads is go, tails is no.
Tails is no, and it's usually heads.
It's usually heads.
Really?
So like for example, we'll have like an event going on. They're like, hey man, you should come to this, and I'll be like, let me flip it on it. And if it's tails, I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I can't make it.
So are you leaving it up to the fates?
I'm leaving it up to the coin.
The coin.
So
it's the coin or the fates, or is it chaos theory? Where are we at? Like
I don't know where. Yeah,
what,
I mean,
what
would you
is
call
deciding?
So
what's deciding?
We're removing our own thought process and
trusting the coin,
allowing the universe to guide us.
The Church of the Coin.
Yes.
I hear it now.
And it's the best 2 out of 3.
It is a 2 out of 3.
So you got to get 2 out of 3 have to land on one side, and if it's a double heads off the bat, you're like, oh yeah, that was a definitive yes.
That's interesting because Randy Moss would agree with you. It's tails never fails.
I love Randy Moss.
So he would be like, you guys are doing it all wrong.
Tails never
sorry,
fails.
that's the Minnesotan in me.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I mean, look, I'm a New England guy, so I have love for Randy Moss as well. But no, it's fun, and it's not like every decision. Like there's some things that's like, hell yeah, I'm going to that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to flip a coin if I'm going to do a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right. But if it's like something like, there's this thing going on. Let me see if I should go to
How many times did you flip it for me?
0.
Yeah, 0.
There was no coin flip on having Preston on tonight.
Sorry.
It needed to happen.
Had to ask.
Yeah, no, that needed to happen.
Can we do something that I like to do at all my shows real quick?
Let's
do it.
So whatever anyone in this wonderful space is drinking, I like to do something called team drink. Okay, it's what my mom's a musician, right? Mm-hmm. So she taught me this one. So I'm gonna say team drink on 3.
Do we have to slam the whole beverage?
And then no.
Okay,
It's
I was
just
like,
a sip.
right,
Just
I'm ready
a sip.
for it if we need to.
But I'll say 1, 2, 3, and then we all say team drink. And then the idea is to give cheers to the people that you're with.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, you ready?
All
Yeah,
right.
we also got Dirk in the studio
Dirk!
here. You can't see him, but he's here.
He's here, ready. Team drink on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Team drink.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers to everyone at home.
Yes, cheers to all the viewers and listeners.
Yes.
I think that's actually a good segue, too, into let's talk some music now. Right? That's kind of one of the reasons you're here, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You've been doing some amazing things in the music world, man. I want to know so many things.
Tell me, ask me anything.
I mean, we obviously know you come from a music family, right?
Yeah.
So we just learned that, hence the team drink. I don't know if we were supposed to do that again, but...
Wait, now we all got to drink.
we got to do it again. I fucked it up, guys.
team drink. My mom's going to love that.
So, yeah, man, let's kind of take it back to the roots and when you got into music and when you were like, man, this is what I want to do full-time. I want to pursue this. Like, kind of walk us through the story a little bit.
Yeah, so growing up, my mom toured all across the country. So when she was a piano teacher as well. She still is. 41 years. Sorry, Mom, if I messed that up. 41 years of teaching kids piano lessons, too, on top of touring. And, incredible. She's amazing. She's my inspiration. Literally, like, when I was a kid, it's like living with somebody who's that talented. It made it so fun and made me want to do it. So my first try at music, I guess, my mom would always tell this story of being in a Dodge Caravan back in the day, and I was in the car seat, and she'd be singing along with the radio, and she'd hear a little like, and I'd be like singing in the car seat, and she thought it was maybe a fluke, so she'd turn the radio down and go like, ooh, and I'd be like, and before you knew it, like, give it another 6 months, I was learning how to do harmony. And so at my mom's piano recital, she had me sing Cruella de Vil.
Okay.
And at the time, I had a speech impediment, so I couldn't say my R's, so it was Coella.
Okay.
And she dressed me up in a Dalmatian costume, so I sang Coella, and that's probably one of the earliest moments of like doing, like, performing.
Yeah.
And I it sounds silly maybe, but like I remember just like looking out and seeing people's faces and them like smiling and giggling and like enjoying themselves, and I was like, man, whatever that was, I wanted more of it as a kid, and I loved that whole thing. And from then on out, I mean, I did piano lessons. All my friends started getting guitars, and I was like, Mom, I gotta be cool. I need a guitar. And
yeah, I was gonna ask, did it start with the guitar or the piano? Like, it's usually one of those too.
Yeah.
I mean,
The mother instrument, as my mom would call it, the piano, because it's visually, you see all the intervals. It helps a lot. But I remember just like locking myself in my room when I was like 13, and I got that guitar, and I'd put in some of my favorite albums, and my mom gave me a chord chart, so I would like look at the chord chart and just figure out what they sounded like, and then I would just learn it from my CDs. So like I know the Weezer Blue Album was huge for me, and I would just sit there and figure it out using my ear. I didn't know how to read tabs. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. So it was more about the adventure, the exploration of what was music, and trying to kind of create something. I think when I was younger, I wanted to just like be inventive and try something. And like the older I get, I'm like, oh, everything's been done.
Yeah.
But, into some capacity. So it's about finding your voice rather than trying to be this like new age.
Yeah.
You're doing something so different kind of thing.
You just got to go out and have fun. That's what sells, is you having fun being authentic, right?
Yeah, authenticity.
Authenticity is key, no matter what you're doing.
Yep.
And so like us doing this here, like this is as authentic as it gets. Like,
Yes.
just hanging out, having a conversation, some beers, and I love it.
I mean, it's like the lost art almost, putting the phones down and just getting to know folks. And, I think authenticity, people like to see who's behind. Like, they see your music, right?
Yeah.
They listen to your music. We're like, now we get to see this guy drinking beer, goofing off, talking about this and that, and doing team drink and all that stuff. That's where I think the innovation is, and where the market's going with some of the podcasting and seeing behind the scenes. And so many musicians and comedians and whoever, celebrities, movie stars, they all do the podcast.
Even
now.
athletes,
Mm-hmm. It sells tickets, it grows market share, it does all those things.
I mean, look at the Kelsey brothers. Like, granted, I mean, dating Taylor Swift probably helps, right?
Oh yeah, what's your thoughts on all that, man? I mean, why is it so?
This is good. Yeah, let's get on that.
Yeah, like it's. I'm like, okay, I like T Swizzle.
Yeah,
I always have. I mean, she's a pretty girl, and her music's
she's talented. She's
amazing,
a songwriter,
amazing guitar player. She's a musician.
Yeah,
and I've always respected about her. She writes songs, but it's like, why is America so obsessed over this Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce deal?
You want me?
Yeah, I do.
I know a lot of Swifties. Lots of them.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't consider myself a Swiftie. I say that because I'm sorry. I like her. I haven't listened to the whole discography. I know a lot of her hits. I cover some of her songs when people request it, but here is my 2 cents on it. She started 16 years old, 17 years old, something, right? And the ladies who were that same age were going through the same things, and they were relating, they were empathizing with her songs.
High school breakups.
Yeah, they were finding meaning in it, right? And as the clock ticks, they were growing alongside Taylor and all of her adventures and seeing themselves, right, in those adventures in a way. Like through her heartbreak, they were experiencing heartbreak. Through these passionate love affairs, like they were feeling that too when they would meet somebody new. And so you go from 16, 17 years old, and now they've got adult money, and they're still growing through the same kind of adventures. It's really this, I mean, she's immensely talented. She is immensely, like, her songwriting is phenomenal, but she's also been just super blessed with the right timing, like those people growing alongside her and sharing those experiences, which is, I think, what every music developer, anyone who's like developing an artist would want, is like, how do we grow alongside our fan base?
Yeah, keep your fans for life, sort of thing.
For life. And I mean, Taylor Swift could stop tomorrow, and that would only probably make her bigger, and you know what I mean? And so you could say anything, and her fans are just, they're in it.
Loyal.
They are locked in. And so, man, I joked around the other day. I was like, man, I would just like kill for like 1% of any of that. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I saw early, her net worth is like almost $800 million.
It's $1 billion now.
Is it $1 billion?
After this tour, they said it's going to be, I think it was a few weeks ago. They just announced she's a billionaire. So
that's amazing.
Well,
It's
congratulations.
Amazing. Give credit when credit's due, kind of thing. I mean, we see what Metallica's done in the music business. They built an empire. Like but like at 30, I think she's 34, if I'm not mistaken.
89, I think.
Yeah, she's my age. I was born in 89. So she's doing a lot better than I am as far as the financial aspect is concerned as a billionaire.
Hey,
but,
don't compare.
Come on. Don't compare.
Yeah, get that out of here.
Thief of joy.
Yeah. We actually had a Would You Rather on Happy Friday last week. I don't know if you saw that, but it basically alluded to, would you rather have a job that you hate, but you're rich? You get rich and famous, you do whatever, but you hate it. You don't like it, but you got all the money in the world. Or would you rather love what you do and just get by? We all chose Love What You Do and Get By.
Oh, yeah. I think that's obviously, I suppose it depends on maybe the amount of privilege or where we stand, right?
Like you could have a mansion, but you're making your money off of like human trafficking.
Oh,
and
well, yeah,
shit.
no.
Like you can have the yacht and have all the delicious meals, but you know that like it's blood diamond money that's fueling that thing, you know?
Yeah, how do you sleep with that?
Yeah.
I think anyone who's kind of a bohemian who loves art, who loves, I was telling Dirk, like, if I wasn't doing music, I'd probably be like a chef because I love to cook. And I love, like, the way you can explore flavors that way and be creative. And so, whether or not, if I'm answering it, I'm with you. I mean, in some ways, I am doing that currently, right?
Yeah.
Like, we are doing that currently.
Yeah.
We are doing our best in the mediums that we have chosen to not just succeed, but to show the world who we are, and we have things to say, and that's important stuff. Everyone has a story, and it's important. So
I agree with that. Yeah, and I don't think one story is more important than the other. Everyone's got a story to tell, and that's the beauty of kind of getting together and talking about things. So, look, you're a musician.
Yep.
And you're doing amazing things. You got this guitar sitting here.
I do.
I want to see you rip this thing.
Yeah, well, rip. Yeah, I can certainly play you some songs that are meaningful to me off the new record.
That'd be awesome, man.
Which, by the way, thank you to listeners. We just went over 100,000 plays on the single, which was...
Congrats on that,
yeah,
man.
that deserves a round of applause for sure.
That's Broken Arrow.
That's awesome.
The whole record is... I was in a relationship for about 6.5 years, and we were living together, and essentially a lot of that kind of fell to the wayside. And during COVID, it was just a little different, and things just didn't start lining up. And so the record itself is definitely not to be too
like
close to
tear in your beer sort of thing.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not that every song on there is, but a lot of it came from that place. You're talking about how being in some of those places where you're not feeling your best, or you're feeling low, and sometimes that's the best, like, right? You think about your plants at home, and you were talking to the inanimate objects, or we're talking to your plants, and if you think about a seed, right, you're burying that in shit, essentially, right? And what happens? You grow from it, right? You blossom. And I know that's cliche, but for me it was just this collective work of so many people, of so many immensely talented people, and it was like I was just so grateful. And so I guess I'll play a song that I wrote about. I wrote it for my father, and my dad worked in a mine for 41 years, and I always joke around that he worked in a mine for like 41 years so I could mess around with the guitar. And I say that a little tongue-in-cheek because flash forward, I ended up working in that same mine for a handful of summers, so I got to like see what he did. And I just got to appreciate it so much more. And I wanted to write a song because it was like, thank you isn't enough for that dedication, not just to me, but to like my brother and my mom. And it's called Carry the Weight, because I think about just how much weight he carried to decide to continue to stay there, work at the mines, instead of following his own dreams, his own passions. And, to me, that just felt, it had to be more. It had to be more. And I want my dad to know that I'm grateful, because he's a great father. So
let's give it a go.
The song is called Carry the Weight.
It's the same mirror as always, as the birds welcome the light. Same headache as most days, just trying to get by. Sing along to the ignition, settle into dusty miles. These hands know where they're going. They've been at this for a while. You carry the weight. The same gate as always. Minutes to punch in time. Hammer to the anvil. Steel toe boots on the line. Hard edges are rendered. Distance between smiles. Father Time, he is a liar. He's been at this for a while. You whoa, the way. So catch him when he's falling. Let her rescue you. Hold them when they're hurting. What else can you do? You get a call from your mother. Says, are you sitting down? Your shoulders start to tremble as you commit them to the ground. You carry all the weight, all the weight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That one got me at the end there, man.
I know, I teared up a little bit. I teared up a little bit. That was tremendous.
That was good. Meaningful lyrics.
Carry the weight.
Meaningful lyrics.
Powerful song.
Thank you.
What was like some of the
beautiful
motivation that went into writing that, and like when you were sitting there putting the pieces together, what were some of the things you were thinking about?
Yeah, I was down in Nashville, Tennessee with my friend Jim Stapley. Shout out to Jim, great musician.
Here, pull that mic in just a smidge.
Sure, yeah. And we were sitting in this Airbnb, and we were talking about, well, what do we want to write about? And we started talking, and I talked about my dad being in the mines, and how I just really wanted to write something that was meaningful. And at the same time, after we had just prior to me going down there to write the song, my best friend was on his way to my house, and I got a phone call from my mom, and we grew up across the street, and she had told me that his dad had passed away, and immediately my heart sank, and he was on his way to my house to go play basketball. And I was like, wow. I just ran out to my car, hopped in. I went like 70 down Lowry, which is not a road you go that fast on. And I was like, I need to get to my friend. I need to be there for him. And the song is about my dad, but it's also kind of about that circle of life. And that last verse, my dad's still with us. And so people often ask, like, did your dad pass? You know? And but I know inevitably there will be the weight that we all must burden from people who we've loved who are no longer here with us. And my friend, his situation just brought that to the forefront of my brain. And I'm so close with my parents that I, was sitting there and thinking about the gravity of that and like, what does that mean? And so this idea of carrying the weight is, yes, metaphorical, but in that last verse, it's literally about the idea of laying a casket to rest, and for those who have lost a parent or a loved one, and they know that feeling, that sinking feeling of, if I could have one more conversation, if I could listen to that song with you again, if I could have that beer with you again, that kind of stuff, like, it's immensely powerful. And I wanted to capture this moment in time of just like how I was feeling, and knowing that that's the circle of life, and it's a weight that we all carry eventually. And if you haven't yet, I mean, you're extremely blessed to not know that feeling of loss. And so when big shout out to Jim again, just us sitting there and funneling these thoughts and ideas and feelings into something that I felt was meaningful to me, and that song is treasured to me.
Yeah.
And I hope other people can
find
meaning.
It evoked emotion out of me, like, and then I was like, we try to full send here, like, we'll cry on the podcast and stuff, like, this is the modern man movement.
Yeah.
But when I was cutting the camera, I was like, oh, dude, I'm gonna get this thing, I'm gonna be glossy eyed. But that's like the true shit, when a man with a guitar could just sit here and almost make another grown man cry sitting across the table from him, like, hearing this, like, that there's truth to that. There's like emotion that it evokes, that life is temporary and it's precious, and we need to be humbled by that sometimes, and death is around the corner for all of us, right? So the fact that you captured that well with those lyrics, and it was beautiful. I liked it a lot, man. That was good.
Thanks.
It was really good.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, music's the soundtrack to life. It's, I talk about brings people together. It doesn't always have to be, a positive song or, something like that. Like, just whatever that experience is and what it's capturing, somebody can hear it and they're like, man. I read so many comments of a song that'll drop, and they're like, oh, this reminds me of, my son that passed, or this or that. And you hear those kind of things, and it's like, wow, it impacted. And everybody might view it differently.
Yeah.
Right? Like a picture's worth 1,000 words kind of thing. And I think that's the beauty of music and art, is it touches people in ways.
You nailed it. Like Dave Grohl, obviously, Foo Fighters, right?
Love Dave Grohl. Mm-hmm.
Dave Grohl, I think, said it best for me. He said, it's amazing when you're in a stadium, 80,000 people all singing the same exact lyrics for 80,000 different reasons. And so, you hear somebody singing Everlong or whatever song they're playing, and there's their own reason behind it. And that's the beauty of, like you said, art. No matter the medium, whether it's painting, whether it's how do you see it, or with music, how are you hearing it and how are you receiving it into your own life, and is it doing something for you? Is it stirring emotion? Is it bringing you joy? Is it bringing you that connectedness? And that's my goal in life, to feel like I'm helping. Like, I talk about purpose a lot. I feel like my purpose is to allow others permission to feel deeply and to connect with storytelling and music. And if I can do that, we talked about success, we talked about growth, like, I'm succeeding then if I can make people maybe think twice about that scorned relationship and build a bridge, or to reach out to that estranged family member, or to do those little, I say little, and I don't mean that they're little, but like they end up being these huge things for people in their lives. And music is an antidote to some of the poison that we get, art in general, but music is my medium. So I'm like, how can I infuse my story and connect with others that way? So
just based on what I've heard already, I feel like your music and your message behind the lyrics, because honestly, like, anyone can listen to music and kind of feel a rhythm. Yep. But when you add lyrics to it, you're adding layers of emotion. And what I feel like you're doing within that, the song you just performed live, and then also some of the other songs that we listened prior to coming in, is you're almost allowing, like, you're giving people permission to feel those emotions, and maybe they've been, putting them in the closet.
Yeah.
They'd be like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with those emotions. But they're just stirring in there. And, like, the music can bring that to the forefront and maybe be like, okay, let me digest this. Like, I feel like it could help people.
Yeah, let's address it, right? Let's not bury it deep and have a heart attack at 50 because of it.
Yeah.
And especially for men, like, that was the thing, like, growing up. Not that it was ever, I think you guys will relate, but it's like I was always, college football player, like, suck it up, don't cry, all those things. And it wasn't it. It was just kind of a societal expectation, right? And don't get me wrong, there is a purpose for it, and I understand why people say that. Sometimes we need strong, resilient people. But, like, if you live in an emotional capacity like this, when really the full spectrum is like this, you're living that much life. Yes, the lows suck, but without them, it's the good, like, the great stuff isn't as. And in fact, there's a lyric in a song I wrote a long time ago, and it's like, without the sour, the sweet won't taste as good. If everything is sweet, 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 we don't know any different. And so it's just the ebb and flow of life, the peaks and valleys, whatever cliche thing you want to say. And with that comes humility, understanding that there is depths and darkness and hurt and pain. And on the flip side of that, there is the ability to overcome those things, to help others, to be better, to grow, to, like, that's life. That's the essence of life to me.
Yeah.
Could be better said, man. No, I agree with you 100% there. And like, to your point, we did grow up kind of in a time where it was like, rub some dirt on it, get over it, all that stuff, which is good. Like you said, I think it teaches a little toughness, a little resiliency, of course. But, we talk about the modern man, hashtag modern man. We had Ryan Van Duzer on here a few weeks ago. He's like ridden his bike around the world or something. He's done all the things. He's incredible.
It's amazing.
And we kind of talked about the modern man thing there a little bit. But, I think sometimes that term, and what, like, the masculine energy is supposed to be is a specific expectation.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas masculine energy is exactly what we just talked about: mission, drive, purpose, overcoming barriers, breaking through, taking it to the next level, taking risks. That, just because you shed a tear or you have an emotional feeling about that, and I liked your diagram there because I'm a visual guy. I'm a visual learner.
Yeah.
So that diagram to me makes sense. There's more layers to it, and it doesn't have to just be X, Y, and Z is what determines an alpha male or a beta male, something like that.
Yeah.
It's where you're headed. What are you focusing on? How you handle in situations? Are you taking control of your life? And that's exactly what it comes down to. I know, Art, you're probably going to agree with me on that.
Oh my gosh, I'm such a strong advocate for that, and same with what you're saying as far as feeling the emotions of life and allowing them to come through, because they're all kind of temporary, right? Like, I'll feel sad or depressed about something, or and that's fine. It's okay to feel sad in that moment.
It's okay to feel your feelings,
and acknowledge it, and then move on with your day, But life is truly like this balancing act of being confident but not being too cocky, or having fun but not going landish and being frivolous or whatever. Like, there's all these fine lines of, like, where it's like you're on this balancing rope of whatever that specific emotion is, like, being vulnerable enough to be in a relationship but not overdoing it and chasing people out of your life. There's all these different aspects, and the more that we can acknowledge them, and through music, through podcasts, whatever medium you're receiving it, or if you've done the self-work, putting it out there to try to help others, which I love how you do that stuff, how you've went to help rebuild in New Orleans, how you've done all this, time, and you're giving. I don't know. There's so much to unpack with all that. Like, I could just go on a ramble, and it won't mean anything, and also mean everything at the same time.
But that's just it. I wanna focus on that for a second, real quick, because here's what I've discovered through, therapy, and I was always like, I don't need it, and then got turned on to it, and it's been so beneficial. But life is full of paradox, and the more that we understand that. Like, in order to be successful, we said it earlier, what do you need to do? You need to fail.
Yeah.
And what you were just divulging there. These things that seem so counterintuitive, so opposite. Life is full of paradox, and so how do we make sense of it, right? Like, how do we find the answer? Well, it's different for everybody. Mm-hmm. And so we have to move our own needle. We have to be willing to be humble, to be wrong, to grow. And all that stuff, in essence, is just like, it's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work to I don't want to say like be your best self, but like, I'm a big believer in like trying to chase whatever potential you have, and potential is just that. It's just potential until you're serious about working at it. And so, man, life, a beautiful disaster.
It's chaotic, but we're
a paradox of events all the time.
Yeah, it's a catalog of sometimes negative experiences, sometimes great experiences. Mm-hmm. And it's what we make of it. Right? It's up to us to decide what we're going to do with it.
100%.
Well, I'm so happy that you decided to get your ass to Colorado. I mean, because we do Zoom podcasts, and those are great, but there's nothing like actually
in person.
Yeah. On the couch, across the table. And we've made a lot of friendships through this medium of sitting down and having these type of conversations, man. And
right on.
And just like probably most people, once they see you the first time, they all start getting more involved, and we're gonna totally support what you do after sitting here with you.
Likewise.
Like we love what your mission is, and it's. I almost feel like the same thing with the podcast. Like, if we can help one person, like, with being open and upfront about how we struggle, and like, because everyone's struggling with something. Mm-hmm. Like, and if you're saying you're not, then you're full of it.
Right.
Like, everyone's struggling with something. I don't care who you are. Even if you're right now your best version of yourself, you're struggling with something. Yeah. You're working on something. And I just love that you're doing that, man. And it shows that your heart is on your sleeve about it, and you're not afraid to show your emotions. And honestly, being vulnerable, even though it's difficult because we show our weaknesses, from somebody outside looking in, like, that is the pinnacle of strength.
That's strength, yeah. And I want to just quickly give you guys a shout out. For those of you at home, we're all sporting mustaches, and this was not planned, but Movember, raising awareness for men's health, and my focus primarily men's mental health. Mm-hmm. Losing a friend in 2020 to suicide, and I think it's just so important that men have the ability to go to their friends when they need help, to say they're hurting, to find the resources they need. So if you are somebody who is in a valley right now and you're at home and you're listening to this, or you're watching it on YouTube, whatever you're doing, like, just know that, man, there are people out there that really do love you, that care about you, and there are plenty of resources. I don't have the number memorized anymore. I used to, but if you need help, there's help for you, and you matter. So just want to let you know that.
Yeah.
Glad you got that in there, man, for sure. Because the Movember thing's going on. It's good to bring awareness to it. We lost a good friend of ours, Matt Boardman, to suicide back in 2017.
Sorry.
So relatable, of course, terrible. But to your point, there is somebody that is going to help, and there is people that care about you, and that's what's great about Movember. Brings awareness to some of that stuff. So cool that we're rocking all the mustaches. Man.
Yeah, I know. Cool. I was gonna say, I feel like I'm in like a 70s like movie or something. Like
have a little fun with it, but also bring some awareness to things. And I think this is a good opportunity to kind of transition into, where do our listeners, our viewers, go to get in touch with you? Where do they go? And all this will be included in the show notes down below. So if you're listening, you're watching, just scroll down to get in touch with Preston. He's about to tell you where to go.
Yeah. Thank you again for having me. If you want to connect with me, Instagram is great. Also Spotify, my single Broken Arrow just got over 100,000 plays today. So thank you for listening. The record is called Fall, and Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get music from, also YouTube, all that jazz. You can go to PrestonGunderson.com. I'm really grateful if you listen, check it out. Thank you for having me, you guys. It's been really fun.
Absolutely has been fun. And I think the best way to close this episode out is with another tune.
Yeah?
I agree with that.
All right.
Why don't you play Broken Arrow?
Yeah, why don't I?
Yeah, man.
That sounds like a great idea.
I
was gonna play another soft, quiet one, but no, let's bring it up a little bit here. So the song's called Broken Arrow.
Our love could be fake. Could be a disaster at this rate. Falling slowly like autumn leaves. You're standing tall like the old oak trees. Do you feel me now like an arrow in your heart? Would you believe me still, even though we are apart? I feel like I'm your broken arrow. I'm always missing my mark. What if I told you, my dear, a broken arrow can still pierce a heart?
Yeah.
There's a line in the sand, and I'm not sure where I'll land. No, like my words, oh, they're always falling short. Like I'm diving headfirst in the dirt. Do you feel me now, like an arrow in your heart? Would you believe me still, even though we are apart? Whoa, whoa, yeah, I feel like I'm your broken arrow. I'm always missing my mark. What if I told you, my dear, a broken arrow can still pierce a heart? Won't you just draw me back to you? 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 Oh, draw me back to you.
Wow.
Thanks, y'all.
Wow, that was fantastic, man.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Wow.
Dig that for sure.
Appreciate it.
That was great energy. Everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Preston, you are amazing, man. We wish you the best time in LA, having fun out there.
Thanks. All right, Kevin, it's been a pleasure.
Good to see you, man. And on that note, let's go ahead and
drink.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Y'all be good to yourselves. You deserve it.